Hi there, welcome once again to Dukascopy TV. I'm Ben Jones. Joining me on the line today for an in-depth look at the Portuguese economy is Anthony Baert from ING. So, Anthony, first of all, I would like to discuss the fact that Portugal have recently lowered their growth forecast for this year from 1.1% to 0.9%. Can you outline why this is and discuss the current performance of the economy?
Growth forecasts of this year have been lowered from 1.1 to 0.9, and this is mainly due to two factors. The first factor is higher imports. The fact that actually domestic demand is coming back, and this is reflected, or this has an impact on imports. The other factor is that there is lower public consumption. So the government is still doing austerity, and this weighs on activity. So that's why in the latest bulletin of the Banco de Portugal, the growth forecasts were lowered. Now, how is the Portuguese economy doing? What we've been witnessing in the last quarters is a slow comeback of domestic demand. We've seen consumption picking up, investment picking up as well, and this is already a good development. Domestic demand has been shrinking throughout the Troika program from actually 2011 to middle of last year, but now we see that it's strengthening.
Now, looking ahead to tomorrow, the ECB's Carlos Costa will be talking about the Portuguese economy. He previously stated that Portugal need to meet the budget deficit goals. What do you think he'll focus on this time?
I think it will, first of all, be the budget as well. The budget has now been announced. The deficit will probably be for 2015 at 2.7% of GDP, which is slightly above the target of the Troika, but is below the 3% target of the excessive deficit procedure. So that means that Portugal will leave the excessive deficit procedure next year if it manages to meet that target. Now, there is still a discussion going on with the European Commission, because although the government managed to reduce the deficit to below 3%, it is unclear whether this is being achieved through structural measures. And the Commission, there are the Commission seems to criticize the fact that the effort is not structural enough. So this remains to be seen. The end of this debate. The Portuguese government is arguing that it did take strong structural measures, but that it is due to the methodological changes, the calculation of the GDP, and that the numbers have now been, the structural effort has now now looks lower than it was. But probably the ECB will focus on the budget and public finances, and stress that we have to remain. The Portuguese government has to remain very focused to avoid expenditure slippages.
And finally, can you discuss the potential impact of the proposed ECB QE and ABS program?
There are two purchasing programs, a program for covered bonds and a program for asset-backed securities. So the goal of the first program, the covered bonds, is to lower the funding costs for banks. So as the ECB buys covered bonds, the interest rate that banks pay for their funding will lower. The purpose of this is to make sure that banks can fund themselves cheaply, which might lead into more provision of credit. The other program is the asset-backed securities purchase program, and the purpose of that program is to free up the balance sheet on the asset side, so that banks can use the space to again provide credit. So the goals of these two programs is to provide credit. One works through the liability side, the other one through the asset side. The question remains whether the demand for credit is there. But there, if we look at the latest bank lending survey of the ECB, we see that demand for credit by corporations remains quite high in historical perspective, and that also banks have been loosening their credit standards lately. So the fact that the ECB now takes measures to stimulate credit with these purchase programs might be matched by the demand of corporations.
Anthony, thank you once again for joining us today. That's all we have time for now. Keep clicking back to Dukascopy TV though, as we bring you plenty more updates and exclusive interviews. Bye for now.